3 in a row for your New England Patriots with a 25-19 win over the Saints. Big plays, controversial calls. Let's get right into this game breakdown. Very similar to last week, it really was a tale of two halves for the New England Patriots. However, a little bit of a reverse card today. The Patriots had a much more productive offensive half in the first half, actually scoring touchdowns on 3 of their first 4 offensive drives compared to the second half where they only mustered a field goal. Of course, the circumstances were a little bit different, of course, playing with a lead. And I did think that the play calling got a little too conservative there in the second half, which does really highlight a true deficiency in this offense. But I will get to that in a little bit later in the video. But Drake May on the day, I thought had himself a very good game. One of the better games of his career thus far. Finished 18 of 26 for 261 yards, averaging around 15 yards per pass attempt. And finished the day with a new career high, I believe, for touchdown passes in the game, which was 3. So very encouraging signs here. But even more encouraging, I would say, is I thought that he took a huge step forward today in terms of his pocket awareness. And I wouldn't say that it's a deficiency in his game. However, there are times where he has struggled and felt the rush a little bit this season. However, he did a better job today in keeping his eyes down the field. And notably, I remember last week in the Bills game where he started to feel that rush, you saw him kind of tuck tail and run a little bit too quick, but that was not the case today. He extended multiple plays, and the offensive line did a nice job of blocking until they heard the whistle or he got rid of the ball. But he did a real nice job of keeping his eyes down the field. Of course, that big play to Pop Douglas on that opening drive there wasn't necessarily a play where he was feeling a ton of pressure, but however, he did have to maneuver the pocket just a little bit, slid a little bit to his right, and did a real nice job of kind of locating Pop Douglas deep down the field. And that's an encouraging sign because Pop Douglas has not been a true feature in this offense, but he certainly had his best game from a production standpoint in terms of receiving numbers in today's game. So hopefully that's something that can continue to progress throughout this year. But also, even the play that got called back on the Stephon Diggs offensive pass interference, which, by the way, that was an absolute terrible call by the referees, and I thought that the refs were particularly bad in this game today. But, I mean, there's just no need to call a flag on that play. That gave no one an advantage. It wasn't even near where the ball was thrown to. There was just literally no need to kind of call that flag in that instance, but that's besides the point. Even on that play, Drake May felt the rush, even bumped into his own lineman who got kind of pushed into him a little bit, but he did such a nice job of still maneuvering the pocket and hit Demario Douglas deep down the field for that touchdown. Unfortunately, it didn't count, but that did not deter the Patriots because they had another standout receiver this time, Kayshon Boutte, who had himself another great day. I believe he finished with 5 catches on the day for 93 yards, and of course, those 2 touchdown catches. So he averaged around 19 yards per catch, and not to mention that closeout sideline boundary catch, the body control just to absolutely stay in bounds there and end that game. Also, just a great catch there, back shoulder throw, great chemistry between him and Drake May. But Drake May is just locking in with these receivers. You see the chemistry improving in every instance, whether it's Diggs, Boutte, even Pop Douglas got into the mix today, Mac Hollins. There were several big plays to the receivers, and it was because Drake May was able to extend some plays. Guys were able to work back to the ball, and because of that, develop chemistry. The Patriots certainly noticed a deficiency in the Saints secondary, and they really took advantage of it deep down the field, especially in that first half. I'm wondering if they saw something in the tape that really suggested maybe the safety play of the Saints and stuff like that was not up to par because they hit multiple deep passes against this Saints secondary. And there were times when the safeties were helping the corners too far outside and not being able to cover deep down the middle of the field, which is what happened on that Pop Douglas first drive touchdown. And there were times where the corners were playing with too far inside leverage when they had help across the middle of the field. And that's kind of what happened on that Kayshon Boutte touchdown in that 2-minute drill right before the half. So a real nice job by the Patriots receivers and Drake May noticing that and being able to take advantage of those deficiencies in the Saints secondary. And that's why they were able to put up 22 points, I believe, in that first half. So very good sign by this Patriots offense of taking advantage of bad football, which is something over the past couple years the Patriots offense especially has not been able to do. But now that we have some playmakers, especially at the quarterback position, who are able to make some plays deep down the field, because that really has been one of the true areas, a true downfield threat that the Patriots haven't necessarily hit on thus far this year. But they had multiple plays of 30-plus yards through the air in today's game, and it wasn't just run through the catch. It was air yards. So hopefully that's another avenue that this Patriots offense is going to be able to unlock. And that's going to be able to expand different avenues for this Patriots offense and get what is a struggling running game going a little bit by having to spread out defenses. And that's really where this Patriots offense has struggled the most. And we saw that in this second half. I understand Josh McDaniels wanted to run this game out, and every first down play call was being way too predictable in terms of running, especially when you can't execute on that running. So I will be a little critical of Josh McDaniels' play call in that second half because it got way too predictable, and when you're not able to execute in the running game, then you're losing yards every single time. It wasn't even like the Patriots were getting neutral. They were just simply losing yards on what felt like every single rush attempt. And it wasn't even just designed runs up the middle. It was designed runs to the outside. And I think that's just a product of the offensive line. I'm going to give the offensive line a ton of credit from a pass protection standpoint in this game. They did a real nice job. And throughout the season, they've done a real nice job in terms of their pass protection. But this is just something that the Patriots have not been able to execute in. And that is simply the run game. And it honestly might just be their personnel. They have an undersized center, and you have two rookie linemen on that left side, and there are times where the Patriots are running to that left side. So maybe they either have to switch that and run more to the right side behind guys like Mike Onwenu and Morgan Moses, or they simply just have to execute their blocks better and bring in more personnel to help that. But, I mean, the play calling got very predictable towards the end there, and I think that's kind of where Mike Vrabel was kind of losing his shit on the sideline a little bit like that. The Patriots weren't gaining any yardage in their rushing numbers on the day, especially towards the back end where the Saints knew they were going to have to run the football. And luckily, Drake May and the Patriots offense were able to make some plays, as well as the defense really tightened up in that second half because there were times where this play calling got way too conservative, and there was a time where this offense also kind of got out of rhythm, and there was a sequence where I believe they actually punted the ball 4 straight times in that second half. So the offense does have to do a better job of closing out these games. And they're going to have to get this running game involved at some point because that's how you're going to be able to close out the games. And I've been stating this since week 1 of the season. The better this offense is going to be is when they're more balanced. And when you're able to have that balance, it's going to open up the play action game, and it's going to allow for Drake May to hit some more deeper shots down the field through disguises. And it's going to have to stretch this defense out and make them play closer to the line of scrimmage, allowing them to have more yardage available on the back end. And I think the staff is realizing that they're not going to be able to get tough yardage on the ground, especially in these third and shorts, because you see the kind of play calling that they are having in those third and short situations. It's either QB sneaks or it's bootlegs to the outside, where it's more so based on deception where you're picking up that first down and not based on power. I mean, you take a look at these rushing numbers here for your backs. Travion Henderson, 9 attempts for 27 yards, a 3-yard average. Ramondre, 13 attempts for 18 yards, a 1.4 average. I mean, Drake May was your leading rusher with 9 attempts for 28 yards. So really just not any yardage on the ground whatsoever in today's game. And it's an encouraging sign that your quarterback and your offense was still able to have some success, even though you were so pass reliant. But back to the offensive line, they only gave up 1 sack on the day. However, the Saints did have some pressure at times, and the Saints have a talented rush. I'm surprised that they're actually kind of ranking towards the bottom of the league in terms of getting pressure. But the return of Chase Young today certainly helped them out from that standpoint. And they got a talented front, like I said before. Chase Young, Demario Davis in the second level there. Of course, they got Cam Jordan, stuff like that. So the offensive line on the day did a pretty nice job of executing their pass protection, especially on some of the deeper dropbacks, which allowed the Patriots to hit on those chunk plays. But speaking of the pass receptors in the day, the receivers, Kayshon Boutte, 5 catches on 5 targets for 93 yards and 2 tutties. Demario Douglas got involved in the offense here for the first time in a while. 4 targets on the day, came up with 3 receptions for 71 yards and a touchdown. Of course, had that other deep ball taken away from him on that offensive pass interference. Diggs, 3 for 3 on targets and receptions on the day for 28 yards. Of course, had that massive third down conversion in terms of getting open against man coverage. It was a little bit of that out in motion, that slant route. And you just see the comfort with Drake May and Diggs, especially on third down. I think that Diggs really is Drake May's go-to guy on those third down situations. Or that play actually, I think, was 4th down on 4th and 3. So whether it's man or zone, in those kind of short yardage situations, in the primetime moments, you can guarantee that Drake May is going to be looking Stephon Diggs' way. And that's really what you ask of Stephon Diggs, to make those plays when they needed to be. He might not have to give you those 145-yard games like he did last week, but just in critical situations, just for him to be that veteran receiver and be that true guy that you can throw the ball to and win his route whenever you need him to in those dire situations. That's what you're going to be asking of Stephon Diggs here. So not necessarily a huge explosive day, but had some big plays when they are needed to be. Matt Collins had 2 catches on the day for 28 yards, had that big-time comeback route catch where Drake May was maneuvering the pocket. So real nice job for him working back to the football. Hunter Henry hauled in all 3 of his targets on the day. And the Patriots actually had 7 different receivers come down with a reception on the day. So a real nice job by Drake May in this offense dispersing to different receivers throughout the field. And when you have more receivers being able to be a threat on this team, it's going to allow for Drake May to have more success and allow this offense to really expand into a different type of profile. Moving over to the defensive side of the ball on the day, pretty similar game plan to how the Saints defense was playing the Patriots a little bit, but the Patriots were able to execute just a little bit better than the Saints defense, especially in terms of the explosive plays category. Really after that first play of the game where the Patriots were trying to bring that corner blitz, there wasn't many explosive plays that the Saints really hit on the day. And something that was very similar to the Patriots offense that happened to the Saints offense is they became extremely one-dimensional because of how well the Patriots defense was playing against the run. And that has been a common theme thus far this season, but the Patriots just forcing the Saints offense into a more one-dimensional unit. Of course, like I said before, compared to the Patriots offense, the more one-dimensional you get, the more predictable you are, and that really allowed for the Patriots defense to kind of lock in on Spencer Rattler, who had himself a really good day. And there were times where the Patriots defense were struggling to get off the field, but the big-time difference between this Patriots defense these last couple weeks compared to the first 3, I would say, is their ability to kind of bunker up in the red zone. And honestly, since that Pittsburgh game, the Patriots have not allowed touchdowns in the red zone. They more so held teams to either 3 or have been able to take the ball away. And luckily for them in this game, they did a real nice job of playing good red zone defense, because if the Saints come away with 7 or 6 instead of 3, in a lot of the instances, we're talking about a different type of game here. And overall, I think that the Saints offense moved the ball pretty decently. There were times where the Saints offense really got held back by some of their own penalties, but you also have to credit the Patriots defense for not allowing big-time plays. Really, the only big-time play that the Saints had in this game was the first play of the game, and that's where they kind of beat them on a bit of a corner blitz. And that was something that I noticed a lot in this game as well. The Patriots were sending a lot of pressure from the secondary. There were times when they were sending outside corners like they did on the first play of the game, where Gonzo actually got caught blitzing there. But Marcus Jones in the slot, Carlton Davis coming off the edge. I mean, there were times where they were bringing a ton of different type of looks against the Saints offense. And even the broadcast kind of alluded to how the Saints haven't necessarily been able to hit on a ton of deep plays this season thus far. So maybe the Patriots felt like, hey, we're going to have good coverage on the back end. This is a chance for us to really expose this Saints offense and bring pressure from different types of spots and force them to kind of beat us in the area where they're unable to. And I think it really showed in how the Patriots were able to kind of defending those long passes. I mean, Marcus Jones got targeted several times deep down the field. There was that one play where Chris Olave absolutely made a great catch, and really it was a fumble instead of a actual incompletion where Charles Woods actually kind of knocked it down after he came down with the ball over Marcus Jones. But Marcus Jones played very good coverage on several deep ball shots today, and I believe he actually had 3 passes defended, which I believe is a season high thus far from any of the Patriots corners. Charles Woods also had himself a pass defense. And speaking of guys with pass defenses, Christian Ellis had himself a absolutely great second half, made several huge plays for this Patriots defense, came up with a huge second and long pass breakup, I believe it was, where he actually got a hand on the football in zone coverage. So real nice job of him getting solid depth on that drop back there. And of course, the huge punch out there against Jawan Johnson, where the Patriots actually ended up not doing a single thing with that turnover, but just wasting more time and more time coming off the clock there. Just a real nice job there by Christian Ellis. And that really has been the one thing over these past couple weeks that the Patriots have struggled with, is having a more so quote-unquote coverage linebacker. So Christian Ellis is able to kind of develop in that category and continue to play well in terms of pass defense. He might see his snap count continue to rise. And the linebackers this year even though they have struggled a little bit in terms of their pass defense, they have played so well in the run support area, and you could see it in the stats even in this game. Bobby Spillane, 11 total tackles. Christian Ellis, 6 total tackles. Jack Gibbons, 4 total tackles. Jelani Tavai coming off IR this last week or 2 weeks ago, getting back into the fold here, 3 total tackles. So real nice job by the linebackers continuing to play downhill and impacting this running game. And even the safeties, guys like Jalen Hawkins, who I know wasn't out there today, but has been extremely productive in terms of run support. And Craig Woodson on the day had himself 6 tackles, also playing some pretty good coverage on the back end there. Those guys have taken real pride in coming down in the box and helping this team wrap up in terms of run support. And like I said before earlier in the video, the Saints only had 73 total rushing yards, so making them more one-dimensional allowed for the pass rushers to start to get more pressure. The Patriots only had 2 sacks on the day, one of them coming from Marcus Jones on a corner blitz, but Harold Landry was able to come up with the other one. But they were able to get some pressure, and I was really impressed how Joshua Farmer played in today's game. Of course, 4th-round rookie out of Florida State. Didn't get himself a sack, but I noticed that he was able to get some pressures and came up with a couple tackles on the day. But the Patriots were down a couple of their edge defenders in today's game. Keon White and Anthony Jennings were both out. So they were able to move around their defensive line a little bit, and we saw guys like Milton Williams and Joshua Farmer play more on the edge today instead of inside and in the middle. So it's going to be interesting to really see how this Patriots defensive line is kind of moving different types of pieces around. And you get Caleb Von Chase on back in today's game. But the Patriots, I've also noticed how they've kind of been mixing up their defensive line sequencing, whether it's more run support looks in terms of getting like big man Tyrus Tonga in the game and stuff like that. And then you move Milton Williams and Christian Barmore more so on the pass heavy downs here. So they've done a nice job of kind of monitoring each of their snap counts and just making sure that each defensive lineman is more so kind of put into the best situation that they could possibly have for themselves. So I think that that's something that's going to continue to progress, and I think that's a really stable force on their defense thus far this year. Just how effective their pass rush has been, as well as how well they've played against the run, and this defensive line deserves a ton of credit. Tonga in today's game, I thought, was another wrecking crew, and thus far this year, I really thought he was just going to be more so that kind of big body guy to really throw in the run game and just kind of draw bodies. But he's done such a nice job and has been a surprisingly reliable pressure threat in today's game for the Patriots and just on the season in general. I believe he actually had himself a holding call thrown against him. So a real nice job there, forcing the lineman into a bad situation. And he has done a ton of great things this season. And it's just a really good defensive line rotation. I noticed that him and Farmore are usually the guys replacing Milton Williams and Christian Barmore in some of those early down settings or whenever the sub packages come in. So it's a good, reliable defensive front when the Patriots have that, and they're able to kind of use these multitude of packages to keep guys fresh. And I think that's why the Patriots continue to get pressure later on into games, and you see the pressure uptick really happen later on in these games because they're more energized than some of these other offensive line units, and that's really where the Patriots have been able to thrive in terms of getting pressure, has been late in games. All right, everyone, that's going to wrap up this game breakdown here. The Patriots moved to 4-2 on the season. They're at Tennessee next week, so let me know your thoughts in the comments below on how you thought the Patriots played this game, as well as the thoughts on the upcoming schedule, and hopefully I'll check you all out in the next one.